Hello and good afternoon. My name is Martin Cowart, and welcome to Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour, where we've been gathering in this virtual sanctuary for over a year now, largely to love and support each other through the pandemic. And I'm so glad we did because we have certainly needed each other to get through the last year. But I'm so excited today to have on our show, as we are celebrating women this month. The theme for March is around women, and we're celebrating women, extraordinary women, who are doing ordinary things that inspire us. And I'm so excited to be welcoming to our show today Gabrielle Claiborne. I met Gabrielle a few years ago at a National Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce conference in Philadelphia, and I just fell in love with her. She's just magnetic. She's just so full of love and wisdom, and I just
You're
think
so sweet.
and she's so sweet, and we're gonna have so much fun today. And she is. I'm gonna let her tell all about what she does because she's actually done a TEDx talk, and she's a speaker, so she can speak much better about what she's going to talk about than me. So I'm going to get quiet, and I'm going to let Gabrielle introduce herself and talk about whatever she wants to talk about today. So take it away, Gabrielle.
Martin, thank you so much for including me in this very important conversation when we're talking about the expansiveness of women in our culture today. And I can tell you that I love showing up and being visible as much as I can to kind of help normalize the width, breadth, and depth of the women's experience. So I'm very grateful that you've included me in today's conversation. So
Well, you're
thank
most welcome.
And I also want to make sure for those of you who are tuning in, if you would like to, we want to encourage this to be an engaging conversation. So if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to enter those in the chat box, and we will respond to those as they come in. And this is meant to be a interactive dialogue. So I encourage you to do that. I am all about one of my biggest persons that I admire is Brene Brown, and when she talks about the power of vulnerability and authenticity, I really want to set a safe space for all of us to show up as authentic and vulnerable as we can, because I believe that until we get to that level of communication and connection, that we really start to form those relationships that really matter. So I encourage you to do that. So a little bit about me. I am the co-founder and CEO of Transformation Journeys Worldwide. We're an inclusion training and consulting firm with a transgender focus. So just if you didn't already know, I identify as a trans woman, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. So we help.
Gabrielle, let me just stop for a second because I've got Audrey Smalls, who's a regular on our show, who wants to say hello.
Hey, Audrey, how are you? Good to see you.
Thank you for joining us, Audrey. Glad you're here.
Absolutely. So we help a myriad of organizations on their journey of transforming their environments into fully inclusive cultures for transgender, nonconforming, and non-binary individuals. And this could be a a Fortune 500 company. This could be a mental or mental health care practice or a practitioner. This could be a spiritual community. This could be a nonprofit organization. So we're very intentional in meeting individuals. I see that waving, Audrey. Thank you. We're very intentional in meeting individuals where they are on their own journey of inclusion, especially when it comes to transgender, nonconforming, and non-binary individuals. And so my journey of authenticity began 10 years ago when I finally met myself for the very first time. You see, early on in my childhood, at a very young age, at the age of 9, by the way, I began having this attraction to women's things. For some reason, I felt drawn to my mom's closet. And when no one was home, I would secretly slip into my mom's closet and try on her clothes. And for some reason, I felt at peace when I did this. But for the life of me, I couldn't understand why. I also didn't understand why I didn't want to just play Barbies. I wanted to be Barbie. And now I am.
Yes, you are.
Now, because I grew up in a very conservative environment, my daddy is a Pentecostal preacher. And because this was long before the days of the internet, just how long, I don't care to disclose to you today. I lived in a place, I struggled with what was going on in my life. I spent 35 years grappling with, this background noise going on in the background. In public, I learned to mask my feminine desires by being a good student, a talented athlete, a popular guy. After graduating from Emory University and then pursuing a civil engineering degree from Georgia Tech, I then married a beautiful woman, and we had 3 amazing children. I had a very successful career owning multiple businesses in the construction industry and a very nice 6-figure income. To top it all off, I was a leader in a large, prestigious Atlanta church. So, by all outward appearances, I had it all. But in reality, I was living a life of turmoil because of this internal gender dilemma, which I still had no words to describe. But when I was 45 years old, I accidentally stumbled across a website showing pictures of trans women. This was the first time I'd seen anything like this. And immediately when I saw these images, I thought, that's me. So I spent the next 5 years doing online research, living between the exhilaration of knowing that's me and the despair of thinking, I could never live my life as a woman. What would God think? What would my family think? But after 5 years of living in this intense turmoil, I finally decided to get help. It was then I met a woman by the name of Ramona who actually made a living dressing biological males as women. Now, this just goes to show you that you can find anything on the internet if you're looking for it. Well, I finally mustered up the courage to call and make an appointment with her. And on the day of the appointment, as I'm driving to her home, I was just a hot mess. But as soon as Ramona greeted me at her door and ushered me upstairs to her dressing salon, I thought I had died and gone to heaven. You see, her salon was rooms of dresses and shoes and wigs and jewelry and drawers of lingerie. So over the next couple of hours, Ramona dressed me head to toe in my true feminine gender expression. After she got me all padded and dressed, she sat me down in her salon chair and started applying the makeup and a wig, things that I had never done for myself before. Now, all this time that she was doing my makeup and my hair, she was standing between me and the mirror, so I wasn't able to see the transformation that was taking place. When she was done, she looked at me. She says, Gabrielle, are you ready? With my heart beating wildly, I said, I think so. It was at that moment Ramona stepped away from the mirror. And there, for the very first time, I saw myself on the outside as the person I knew I was on the inside. I was 49 years old and meeting myself for the very first time. It was then I knew that is me. So I share this story with folks to give them permission to say it's never too late to embrace an aspect of your authenticity wherever you are in your life. And throughout our lives, we're going to encounter many invitations to say, okay, are you really honest with what your heart is asking you to embrace, to listen to, right? And in my book that I recently published last year, Embrace Your Truth, A Journey of Authenticity, excuse me, one of the 5 languages that our hearts speak to us is through our emotions, through our feelings. And so I learned over the course, when I first met myself 10 years ago, over the course of the last 10 to 11 years, I've learned how to listen to my heart space. That's why I so love the name of your podcast here, Martin, because that so resonates me. I have had to learn to live from my heart, get out of my mind. It's not that my mind doesn't play a role in living a productive and fruitful and meaningful life. It's just that my mind cannot dictate where my heart wants to lead me, right? I have to acknowledge those fears and the things that my mind is cautioning me and trying to protect me from. But I have to make the decision to live from the authentic space of my heart. And so, this set me on the course, meeting myself 10 years ago, set me on the course of finding what my authentic self was. So, and it turned every aspect of my life upside down: my vocation, my spiritual community, my friends, um, my relationships with my family. That was a huge uh, turning upside down in my life as a result of coming out. But over time, I've had to learn to navigate those spaces, both with my family, both with my vocation, both even in the spiritual community that I'm now showing up, even with surrounding myself with a new community, my adopted, my chosen family that has really played an integral part in my coming out and in my journey of authenticity. But about 5 years into this journey, well, first when I came out, just to survive, I knew I couldn't fall back on my with showing up in the workplace with my construction colleagues. So I fell back on my entrepreneurial experience, and I started a cleaning company and a home renovation company. And this was just so that I could survive authentically as the woman that I was becoming. But about 5 years into my journey, I realized that these vocational iterations were no longer working for me. I've always been this person that wanted to make a difference and feel purposeful in the work that I do, how I showed up, making sure that I was advocating for those who have less access to what I have access based on, the privilege that I have been blessed with, my education, being white, all those different intersections that I bring of privilege. I wanted to leverage those to advocate for my transgender, nonconforming, and non-binary sisters, brothers, and siblings. So that's when my business partner and I co-founded Transformation Journeys Worldwide, which I shared with you a little bit about in the beginning of our conversation together today. And this has set me on the course to show up in many different ways. I now, like Martin said, I'm a TEDx speaker. I had the opportunity to deliver a TEDx a couple of years ago, and I was very intentional in making sure that my TEDx was not just another conversation around a trans coming out story. It was more about an invitation, a story of the title of it is Building Your Courage Muscles. And the invitation was to invite everyone who wants to embrace some aspect of their authenticity that they may have been frightened about because of what they may lose or what they may experience as a result of listening to their heart. It was an invitation for them to take those courageous steps to embrace that aspect of that authenticity, whatever that looked like for them. It just so happens to be that one aspect of my authenticity is my gender identity, my transgender identity. So, but we all have aspects of authenticity that our heart is calling us to embrace. So, my TEDx was an invitation to those listeners to see, to understand, what your mind has been telling you, but also listening to your heart and living from that heart space. In that TEDx, I also talked about the importance of recognizing that we don't have to have a full roadmap when it comes to embracing a certain aspect of our truth in order to step more fully into that truth. I think a lot of us at times want to have all the T's crossed and the I's dotted before we take those courageous steps. What I've learned in my own journey is that you don't have to understand what that next step looks like. You just need to take that first step. And as you take that first step of courage, most times the most difficult step to take, then that next step will unfold. And until we start taking those steps, consecutive steps will we start realizing and looking back on our lives and saying, oh my God, look how far I've come as a result of listening to my heart, taking those courageous steps. So that's some of the things that you hear in my TED Talk. But one of the things that I've always wanted to do is uh, be an author. And so for the last 3 years, my business partner, who actually happens to be an author, she authored her own book. She and I co-wrote my book, Embrace Your Truth: A Journey of Authenticity. And the purpose of this book was to not only share my own personal journey, kind of a memoir, if you will, my trans identified journey, but also invite those readers to understand what aspects of their own authenticity are waiting to come forth. So I share the lessons learned that I've learned in my own journey of authenticity, some that I've already spoken about, the importance of listening to your heart, learning to love yourself, not just to accept yourself, but to love yourself. And I tell you, in my journey of authenticity, this was a very important step for me. And in my journey, I learned the importance of mirror work. You know, I lived in this Section 8 housing complex, which was the very first, because I was unemployed, I had no money, and I had to find a place to live. I was actually homeless for a few months, but a friend of mine took me in, and he kind of advised me on how to get my feet back under me. And I ended up finding a place in a Section 8 housing complex. And in this apartment, one bedroom apartment with paper thin walls and more roaches than I wanted to deal with. I had full length mirrored doors in my bedroom. So every morning when I wake up and every night when I go to bed, I would look in those full length mirror doors, look myself in the face, in the eyes, and I would say, Gabrielle, I love you. Gabrielle, I love you. Gabrielle, I really love you. And it was this day after day after day of affirming myself that I am fearfully, wonderfully made, that I, as a transgender woman, have a lot to offer to our world, that I can love myself and I can be okay with who I am, despite everything that was coming at me from my family, from outside stimuli, you know, from all those individuals that were trying to say, you know, you're wrong, you're different. I had to learn to love myself in spite of all of that noise, right? So that was one of the things I learned. I also learned the importance of uh, embracing my past. You know, a lot of us, when we realize an aspect of authenticity, we want to kind of turn from our past and almost acknowledge that it never happened. But a good friend of mine, during the course of my journey, she encouraged me to consider my past as an invitation to who I'm becoming, and that it's important to make peace with your past. So if you find that you are trying to run from your past that may be filled, like in the case with me, mistakes, failures, disappointments, I had to learn the importance of making peace with those mistakes, failures, and disappointments as invitations to my greatness, to what I can become, as opposed to allowing it to cripple me and keep me uh, short short of the capacity that I could be as a human being, as I was created to be. And you know, part of dealing with your past and come to terms with your past is working through forgiveness. And a lot of my work was self-forgiveness and forgiving other people that had hurt me, and forgiving myself for those folks that I hurt along the way in my own journey. I can tell you that, you know, when I came out as trans, there's no, like I said earlier, there was no roadmap. There was no, this is what you do, step A, step B, step C. There was not a roadmap, right? What I had to do is do the best I could. And unfortunately, for some of my family members, that best that I could do was not good enough for them. And so consequently, I had to forgive myself for falling short and not being the parent, because I have three grown children, and the spouse that my family, even the now daughter that my parents and my family was expecting me to be. So, dealing with that, working through that forgiveness and grieving, those losses was very instrumental for me. And I think the other thing that I realized that probably this is probably one of the most significant learning experiences that I experienced was about halfway into my transition. I started seeing a life coach, and this life coach really helped me get out of my head and into my heart to live from that heart space. And what I realized that is that the more that I showed up authentically, I've always wanted, like I said earlier, I wanted to feel like I was making a difference in the world, that I'm purpose driven. And so I always wanted to find what was mine to do in this world. What is my calling? And for much of my life, it was like I was looking outside of myself to find what that calling was, only to learn from this life coach that I saw for about a year that it wasn't until I learned to embrace my truth, that aspect of my authenticity, that my purpose is not something that I had to find at all. My purpose actually found me. And as a result of my purpose finding me, as a result of me showing up authentically, more and more doors of opportunity opened up for me. I now sit on, 5 local and national LGBTQ boards and advisory committees, which I'm very grateful to be able to, give back to my community and serve as a leader and pave the way forward for those who are, somewhere in their own journeys of authenticity. I'm now starting to date, which is a whole new experience for me. Clearly with the pandemic, that's put kind of a squelch. That's kind of squelched that journey. But with the vaccines coming on online now and us wanting to get back to a new normal, I'm now dating, and this is a whole new experience for me. Not only am I doing it in a different gender, but I'm attracted to a different sex. I was a straight man, cisgender man attracted to women, and now I'm a straight transgender woman attracted to men. So that's a whole new journey for me that I'm embarking on. So as you can tell in this few minutes that I've shared with you today, authenticity is not necessarily a destination, it's a journey. And it's not a straight line. And I encourage those of you who may be listening into this broadcast that your heart is just dying for you to listen to that still small voice. And it's just inviting you to consider the things that you may have perceived as failures or disappointments in your past and reframe those as invitations of greatness for you. That you, once you come to terms with those as a stepping stone and creating those milestones, those altars that you can look back on, you can say, look how far I've come to be able to do that. So I encourage you to be easy with yourself. Give yourself some grace and allow yourself to live in the moment. Martin, I can tell you one of the things that I've had to learn to do is live in the moment. While I plan for the future, and it's very important to do that, I've learned that if I don't live in the moment, then I don't set myself up for tomorrow the way I want to set myself up for.
Yeah, I love that that idea, because when we get into the moment, when we get into the moment of heart space, which is where we are, and that's not
Right.
the name of my podcast. That's the name of my company, by the way.
I love it.
My company is called Financial Heart Space because I believe when we begin to plan our future, our financial future, from the place of the heart, it comes from abundance. And
Yes.
when we were planning for you were talking about, well, when we begin to think about the future from the heart space, from the moment, I'm right now sitting in the place of love and abundance and prosperity, then I can plan for a future and I can live into that prosperity.
Right.
I
I
can
love
live in,
that.
I can live into that abundance. I'm not living into a story of the past that's painful,
Right.
that's of the ego, I would say, the shadow, because
Yes.
that's what we do. We have painful experiences in the past, and the shadow, which we need, comes up and says, "Oh, don't do that because last time you did it, you really got hurt." And so you
Yes.
stop and you think, well, is there really some danger going on? And it's like, well, no, actually, that's not true. I'm going to put you aside. I'm going to step through this. I'm going to have the courage to say, and I'm going to get still and get into some heart space and find out
Yes.
what's true. And when I do that, I always find out there's a truer possibility that, like you just said, I'm loved, you are loved. That's what we are. It's our essence is just pure love energy, pure love consciousness. And when I
Yes.
get into that, then my worldview, transformation is when we change our view of ourselves, our creator, and the world, our worldview.
Yes.
So what you just shared beautifully, by the way. I'm just like in awe of everything you said, every single word. But I wanted to just add in a few things about it, just from the context of contemplative prayer. So, and
Sure.
while we do contemplative prayer as a way of getting still and letting go of those egoic beliefs that are causing maybe some pain and causing some worry. And they're basically all lies, first of all, because that's what the ego does. It's the shadow, it's the negative of the truth. And then we get still and we listen, open our hearts, and listen to that divine presence within us that always knows the truth to guide us into the next step. So, on your comment about being present in the moment, that's the purpose of meditation and prayer is an actual technique, if you will, to stop what you're doing in the doing world and just be for a few minutes to get some guidance from that inner creative spirit. I call her Joy the Wise Woman. And once I let bring Joy the Wise Woman, she's talking right now, by the way. It's not Martin talking. It's Joy the Wise Woman talking and listening. And when she's on board, it's going to be a fun day because she's very creative, and she likes to have a good time, and she likes to create prosperity. And,
Yes.
and that's what I was listening to my coach the other day, Kelly Roach, and I highly recommend you check out Kelly Roach and the Tribe of Unstoppable because she was talking about spiritual selling. And what she's talking about is when we sell from our higher level of consciousness, when we sell from love and truth, it's not manipulation. It's like we're sharing our authentic self with the world while we're here, like you're doing. You're doing what you're doing because you know authentically who you are, and your purpose is to share this message.
Right.
And that's what you're selling. It's not selling in the old tradition, like you're trying to get people to. Your people want what you have because you're adding value to their life. And that's the whole idea of financial hard spaces, so we can begin to we can include money, because I was quoting something the other day. Money is really infinite creative energy. We live in this scarcity mindset that says, oh, there's only so much money. That is not true. We
No,
create
it's not
money.
true.
We create
Yes.
every bit of everything you see, we created from our heart.
And there's more, and there's more enough to go around for
And there is more
everybody.
than enough to go around. There is plenty. And there's
Yes.
no way, and it's so exciting right now is that we're creating in this movement that I'm part of now called the Unstoppable Entrepreneurs, led mostly by women. I would say it's like being part of a community of women, or people, mostly women, who are moving this world from poverty thinking into prosperity living by what they're doing and how they're being in the world and showing up from that authentic place, and they're living their life of purpose, and they're teaching people how to do that. And it's just fascinating to me. It's fascinating. And thank you so much for sharing your story. That I'm still feeling, I am definitely vibrating at a higher frequency right now
Well,
because of your
thank
story.
you.
I am definitely vibrating at a higher frequency of love, and I thank you for that. And I knew we would, because that's what happened when I met you back years ago in person, when I just got together and talked to you. We immediately found ourselves vibrating in a place of love and excitement and joy and creativity. So thank you for that.
And I believe that's one reason that we did meet, Martin, because we were both vibrating at that frequency.
Yeah, I agree.
You know?
I definitely agree. And the invitation we're putting out today to the world is all of us join us in this vibration. It's a lot more fun.
Yes. Yes,
stuck in the old,
yes,
being stuck in that old world of fear and doubt and not enough, and I don't like myself, and no one's going to like me, and trying to live up to somebody else's expectation.
yes.
That's a miserable way to live, and we both lived that way at one point, right?
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh,
It's so much more exciting to live from your heart and live authentically on
oh
purpose.
yeah. The view from this side is like no other.
There is no other. The view of everything, ourselves, our God, and the world.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. It's beautiful. Well, it's half after the hour, so we're going to go into some meditation.
Okay.
And how it's going to look is I know you meditate, so just follow along with me today. I do something called centering prayer, where we get still and we let go of, surrender, if you will, all of our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, and anything in our head, all that noise in our head that's keeping us out of the present moment, so that we can enter into the heart space of the present moment and get still and listen to that divine presence to guide us into the next step and into the next step, into the next step. Let's see what, before we do that, let's see what my dear friend Audrey, you are. Oh, Audrey, and let me tell you something about Audrey is also a very gifted storyteller. We know each other through the National Speakers Association. She is, so that compliment is coming from a pro herself.
Well, thank you, Audrey. I appreciate that.
She is that's a real authentic compliment coming from a very authentic, powerful woman who's been a guest on my show. So she's a dear friend of mine, and I just adore her. And she's so I thank you for making that observation, Andre, because it's true. It's really true. And so and that just brings me up to another higher level of consciousness that we can open our hearts to. So let me set my timer for 20 minutes, and what it's going to look like, but by the first 5 minutes, I'm going to kind of guide us into the meditation. Then I'm going to get still. We'll hear an interval bell every 5 minutes or so. The point of the interval bell is to wake us up from our thinking. It's kind of a sweet bell, because what happens when we go into meditation? We all do it. I've been doing it 40 years. I still do it. I'll get some random thought and think it's such a great idea. I'll just start following it down the road, and the bell's to wake us up, or we might fall asleep. Sometimes we get so comfortable we fall asleep. So it doesn't matter why, but it's to bring us back into the moment. That's the point of what I'm trying to say. So
Gotcha.
let me just set the bell, and we'll get started. So we're going to start, Gabrielle, by raising your arms up in the air in celebration of women. And we bring him in the air because I want to remind us of that life spirit within us, because that's how far we have to go to find the spirit of life. When you raise your arms in the air or listen or talk, it is the divine presence within us that's doing it. Our muscles are just responding to the command of spirit, of what I call Joy the Wise Woman. So thank you, Joy the Wise Woman, for helping me raise my arms right now in celebration of women, celebration of Gabrielle and all the work she's doing to change the world and make it better for everyone. So we can put our arms back in our laps now and get comfortable. But I just want to start the weekend. We sit up tall, proud human beings who love ourselves. I love that. Love ourselves. Sit up tall like someone who loves yourself. And look at yourself and say, I love you. And as you're doing that, we're going to do some focused breathing, some conscious breathing. And one little technique that I'll teach you that's really kind of nice to know is when we're thinking, the back of our tongue is vibrating just a little bit. And if we can slow down the vibration of the tongue, we'll slow down the thinking in our head. So the way I do that is I take the tip of my tongue and I rest it on the roof of my mouth, just behind my front teeth, and just relax my jaw and part my lips like this. So just try it. Just try that. And as you're breathing, allow the breath to gently massage the tongue and just see what might happen. And just see if it doesn't slow down the thinking a little bit. We'll start with that. Just breathe and massage the tongue. And as you're breathing, become aware of your belly muscles, pulling the breath deeper inside of you. Breath coming in through the nose, down the throat, massaging the back of your tongue, expanding your heart space. and finding that wonderful anchor deep in your belly. And just become conscious of the breath as we go from outside looking into inward being. And we just get still. Notice any emotions you might be having in your body right now. And welcome them. Maybe you're feeling some joy. Maybe you're feeling some gratitude. Maybe you're feeling scared. Maybe you're feeling shame. They're all welcome. Feel them. Allow those emotions to pull you deeper inside yourself. As we get stiller and more still, moving inside to our interior landscape, we're going to do 3 belly breaths. And we're going to use the belly muscles to pull the breath in through the nose, down the throat, massage the tongue, open the heart, and pull it deep into your belly to make some space. You ready? Hold it. Hold it. Now, just let it all go. And when you let your breath go, let go of every thought, every opinion, every judgment, every belief, every story that you have about me, about Gabrielle, about yourself. Just let it go. Hold on to nothing. And create space for emptiness, no thought. The world, the sweet world of not knowing. You just feel into the expansion of your belly and your heart. We're going to begin to prepare for a second round of belly breathing. So with your belly muscles, pull the breath in through the nose, down the throat, massage the tongue, open the heart, and anchor it in your belly. Ready? Hold it a little bit longer, just expand it a little further. And now just let it go. Gently let it go. And just as you're expanding, let go of every belief you have about what's good or bad, right or wrong, who you might be comparing yourself to. Anything in our head, just let it go. And get still. Create that space. And just breathe. Just notice the breath. In, expanding the rib cage, opening the heart, expanding the belly. We become more familiar with our interior landscape, place of the heart, place of truth, place of love. We're going to do one more belly breath, and then we're going to get still. We're just going to sit with the divine presence within ourselves that we've pulled, asked to come present. So the belly muscles, pull the breath in through the nose, down the throat, massage the tongue, open your heart, and open up your belly. And this time, let go of every little thing that might still be holding on and just let it go. Be still and know that I am the divine. I am love. There's that sweet wake-up bell to wake us up from our thinking, our planning, our worrying. Just smile at them and let them go with an open heart. And go back to the breathing. Okay, there's that sweet wake up bell, waking us up from our thinking. Oh, I had a real thing going on there for a moment. So thank you, Bell, for waking me up. The invitation is to let him go and fall back into the stillness of unconditional love. There's one more sweet wake-up bell to get us out of our thinking, wake us up. The invitation is just to let it go and thank that brilliant mind for doing its job, its thinking. And just let it go. Open your heart. Fall back into that stillness of unconditional love. Our essence. And there's our final bell. Welcome back, everyone. Anybody got any questions or comments or thoughts? Gabrielle, I'm going to take you off of mute. You can you have to unmute yourself, I think. You need to unmute yourself. See, there's a little. Do you see it? The mute button? Down there where you're in the picture, is there a little picture in the lower left corner? It won't let me unmute you. It says you have to do it yourself. I'm trying. How did you mute it? We'll try something. I'm going to remove you and put you back. Okay.
I got it. I
Oh,
lost my.
good.
I,
I knew
lo-
you
I,
figured.
I lost myself.
We get lost sometimes, right?
Yes.
The whole point of meditation, we get so lost in our interior, we can't find the exterior again.
Yes. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm glad to get you back.
Yes. Thank you so much for this.
Oh, it's been such a joy. I want to just comment on something about transformation I thought about the other night when, as a prosperity coach, that's what we do, and I thought about transformation in the scriptural sense, in the biblical sense, and we always hear that we were made the creator in the image of the creator.
Right.
And what that means to me is that the creator, which is pure love consciousness, uncreated energy, made us human beings infinite into a finite thing called a human being to participate in that creative process through transformation. And I think we're the only animals that I know of that knows how to create transformation, to have transformation. I mean, the other night I was cooking some dinner for my husband and I was making. I decided we wanted some chocolate pudding, and we like that sugar free. It comes in the little Jello box, you know. And
Yeah.
so as I was going to get the box out, and then I was going to get out the milk, and I thought, this is transformation. No other animal on the planet. I don't know if I can tell you right now, a monkey might know how to do the peeling off of a banana, but I can tell you right now, if he's got a hankering for some banana pudding, he's not going to know how to put it together. but,
Yes.
but in a short period of time, this is why I enjoy cooking, I was able to transform that box of powder, 2 cups of milk, into a delicious dessert for us to enjoy. They only have
Right.
30 calories. That's transformation. It can be simple as that. We do it all the time, or it can be going through a transformation to really find our authentic. It's all part of the process.
Right. Yes.
It's all part of the.
And I feel like that we have been given the willpower to do that, right?
Right.
And whether what we do with that uh, determines how we show up in the world. And I think we all have the capacity for great things, and so tapping into what is ours to do by listening to our heart, like we just spent the time doing, is really the place where those seeds are planted, cultivated, and ultimately come forth. So I totally agree with you, Martin.
That is just, and I got to tell you, you've been a delight being on the show. I'm going to close this out right now, but you stick around because I want to just have a few words with you backstage before we depart from this wonderful
Sure.
experience together. So, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, one more thing, Gabrielle, if people want to meet you, what's the best and the easiest way for people to get in contact with you?
Sure, you can go to our website. It's www.transformationjourneysww.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm on all the social media channels. I'm all about being visible. So feel free to reach out to me and connect, because hopefully this is the beginning of more conversations to come.
Oh, absolutely. And Audrey is giving us a lot of praise. It's one of the best I've experienced. Well, it's one of the best I've experienced too, Audrey. And it's because we
Thank
got
you,
a
Audrey.
really very inspiring, extraordinary woman with us today to inspire us. So we're all in this together. So thank you. And so and I promise you, you will not be disappointed. Gabrielle is speaking the truth. If you reach out to her, she'll reach back and you will be glad you did. That's all I got to tell you. You will be glad to have her in your orbit. That's all I got to tell you about that. So,
Thank you.
before we go, I want to let everybody know I have created a new Facebook group for, as people know, I'm a prosperity coach and spiritual teacher and mindset coach for gay, bi, and transgender men. And I've created a Facebook group specifically for us called Financial Heart Space for gay, transgender, and bisexual men. And I encourage you to, if that's you, to join us. And so please join us in that space so you can explore your more authenticity, as that's who you are. and how you bring that authenticity into the world from a place of purpose to really grow your business. That's the purpose of that site. And it comes from the perspective of our interior landscape is gay, bi, trans men. It's different from Gabrielle's, who's a woman. Her interior is hers. It's unique to women, and that's the only way. It's not a discrimination against women.
Yes.
It is for any trans men who identify as male have an interior male energy, and that's what we work with inside that space. So I just want to be able to get clarity on why. Well, where's the L? I said, well, this is why there's no L, because we're different in some ways. We're different, and that's okay. That's how we were made. So I encourage you to join us in there if that's for you. There's a link somewhere close to the pic of this video. And in the meantime, may love and prosperity prevail. So thank you for joining us today.